I greet you all to your first magical language class, and as you can realize, we will not call it magical script. That name is a remnant of a past when the script was the only thing humans used. They refused to speak the tongue of the devils, but they needed some form of understanding, so script is all they had. I am my Felden, and you will soon come to realize in other classes where early mages were forced to learn this language of magical creatures, and I will be the one to teach you to speak it yourself. It is our only way of truly understanding magical creatures. You can learn about how they act, how they live, and what they did, but unless you understand what they are saying, will you never truly completely understand what they want. We are not the only ones in this equation, and there are magical creatures that learn our languages as well, but they are far and few between amongst the multitude of different races out there. When walking out into the world of magic, I am sure it will seem as if many magical creatures speak our languages to some degree. But that is only because those that do are the ones that humans have the most contact with. And even then is it limited to nothing more than a few exceptions within that race that do speak our language. Of course, the magical creatures also have all kinds of other languages, but they are far less advanced than those of us humans. The reason to that is the same that also gave rise to humans. Magical creatures are bound to their magic, to dwell within their home region. Even if other places on Earth would give them similar environments, is it almost impossible for them to travel to those places. In such do they stay isolated, and whenever they have contact with other magical creatures, do they only have the ability to communicate by using the base form. You will probably have heard about this in your politics or magical creatures class, so I won't go over it in details, but outside of magic societies are magical creatures also not far enough developed to speak in more than simple words. This leads to the majority not having the intelligence to go past saying the one word that has always been used. This makes it the universal language of all, including magic societies, who in turn developed unique languages closely tied to what you will learn here. Now then, what you should first of all know is the different categories. There are 4 groups of which a magical creature can occupy one or multiple, or none as well. First up are those that are able to say words. This can be anything from just being able to say nothing more than a singular word to express what they want to say in complex speech. Where they may have the physical abilities, does that not mandate that their brain is developed enough to go past basic words? The next question is if they are capable of speech. Speech is an extension of saying words, so all that can speak fall into the group of basic words. And the follow-up question is if they have their own language. This does not mandate that they are able of speech, as not all languages are considered speaking. Speaking is it when it is intelligible for others that can speak. This does not mean all need to understand it, but that you could learn to understand it. Every life form out there has some form of language, even down to plants as was not so long ago realized. But most of these are nothing more than a few select easy to distinct sounds, and that easy to understand then also only applies to members of the same species. For example, is it physically impossible for humans to understand grasshoppers? Another important note to this is that we say own language if they don't use the basic magical language that you will learn here, but some have developed something akin to an own language based on the magical language. You realize that these magical creatures in fact will in some cases be the hardest to understand, as they use the basic magical language in highly complex ways to compensate for not having a strictly spoken other language. And finally are those capable to understand human language. This is hugely overlapping with those having their own language, but not entirely. Also does this not mean speaking or even perfectly understanding it. There needs to be a certain level of intelligence to grasp the concept of language. You should not take this for equivalent to your dog being able to be trained to sit when you say sit. Your dog does not understand the concept of the word sit, but simply the connection between the sound and the action. If we say a magical creature can understand human language, they would know that sit is referring to the actual concept of sitting, and know that it not simply means they should right now sit down when they hear this word, but how to measure this in reality with magical creatures that can't speak is a topic people are extremely opinionated about. Some would argue that every animal belongs in this category, where others would put it more like this. So much now for the speaking part of this language. The other half is naturally the script. The script is based on drawing symbols that stand in for concepts. These symbols do not mean a specific word, but are more equivalent of the entire idea behind that word. In some cases that is almost identical to the direct translation we have given them, but others are more of a vague idea. Also, as these are symbols representing things, do they resemble the thing they mean to some degree, but the issue lies within understanding the origin. On top of that, are there also simplified drawings. This is a symbol of Olon, which is a symbol of life. Now, what the symbol is based off is the general shape of life. The square is the main body. The 4 lines to the side represent the 4 legs. The one at the back is the tail, and the arrow at the top is the head. Without saying such, you would most likely not have realized this. And that is not a problem. There is no need to learn the origin of every single symbol, especially when we get to symbols like Gohan, which stand in for the ground, and most likely is representing the ground with the bottom line, a bush with a square, and the base of a tree with a vertical line. But this is just speculation, as there is almost no documentation on how these symbols got their shape. Now on top of that, do we not simply have a symbol for every single concept imaginable? Not even talking about the man-made things, are there many things described within 2 symbols. This will not be something you need to fret about for now, but every symbol has a solo form and a combination form, and more complex words like body are written by combining exactly 2 symbols to form Olohan. For speech then there are similar rules on how to form new words, and with few exceptions is there no word made of 3 symbols. The most important part about this for now is that these words are only concepts, so there are no fixed rules on how to name something. This will become most apparent once we start combining words, but often are words related to something of relevancy used instead of the direct translation you would find in a dictionary. River can mean thirsty as one example on your way out.